This is a story of how Evan used the smart job search strategies to go from unemployed to on track for his dream job. Have you ever heard the phrase, "I'm a great believer in luck"? The harder I work, the more of it I seem to have. I love that quote, and it describes not only the story you're about to hear, but one of the founding principles of the smart job search system. Remember, we're not just going to work harder to get a job here, we're going to work smarter by putting our efforts into the most effective actions possible. Now let's talk about Evan, my cousin's fiance at the time. Recently, I had the opportunity to help Evan find a job. He came to me for help finding a new position that would align with his career aspirations. We sat down and talked, and as you might have guessed, I gave him the same advice I'm giving you throughout this course. Whether it's friends, family, or you I'm trying to help, the smart job search strategies I've developed truly work. In case you were wondering, this is the same exact system I give to my own kids to succeed. So let me tell you how it got results for Evan. Evan's story begins with being unceremoniously laid off from his job with no advance warning. This was completely unexpected and the timing was very inconvenient. Evan was 27 years old with 2 bachelor's degrees, a dual master's degree, and more than 3 years of full-time work experience. And now he was completely unemployed. He was choosing between 2 career pathways. Should he go back to a business career path where the bulk of his work experience occurred, or should he follow his passion to work in education, which was the reason he went back to graduate school in the first place? Evan could have gotten into a funk, but he decided not to waste any time. Besides, those student loans weren't going to pay for themselves, so he started reaching out to people he knew professionally and immediately expanded his LinkedIn presence. While he didn't have any teaching certifications at the time, he had considered becoming a teacher since graduate school. He decided to reach out to Penn State University's Department of Education to meet with an academic advisor. His basic query was something along the lines of, "What would I have to do to obtain a teaching certification in the state of Pennsylvania?" The news was not good. To get a teaching certificate, Evan would have to take an additional 3 years of undergraduate coursework, which was not a feasible option. But then a light bulb went off, and he decided to ask, how could I become an attractive candidate for a student advising position at Penn State? The advisor told him that most openings were filled with candidates that already had advising experience, but if Evan was serious about learning the craft, there was a possible opportunity. Every summer, Penn State's Department of Undergraduate Studies hired part-time, fixed-term advisors to help with new student orientation. Like I said, Evan wasn't wasting any time. He went online that night and immediately researched the position, then emailed the director of the program personally, asking if applications were still being accepted and expressing his interest. He was asked to come in for an interview a week later, and less than 2 weeks after that, was offered the position. While a $12 an hour, 25 hours a week position seemed beneath someone who had so much education and experience, he chose to view it as an opportunity to make as many contacts with university insiders as possible. He volunteered for everything, talked to everyone, and asked lots of pointed questions. His underlying goal was to figure out how to turn this fixed-term position into a full-time job offer. Evan always kept his goals in mind and acted strategically. Although the Division of Undergraduate Studies was not offering any full-time positions for full-time advisors, Evan was determined to learn about other job opportunities. Time and time again, everyone said the same thing. His current summer job was the best experience any future applicant could get, and he was encouraged to apply for any advising openings across the university. So he did. With 3 weeks left in the part-time summer position, Evan was offered an interview for a full-time advising position in the business school at Penn State. He prepared a presentation for the interview, hoping to show them he was the perfect candidate. In addition, he reached out to the mother of a friend, remember what I said about your network's network, who was an advisor in a different department at Penn State's campus, who helped prep him for the types of questions he would get and critiqued his presentation. A week after Evan's interview, he received the call. He was offered the position starting at the conclusion of his summer job. Obviously, a small amount of luck was needed for everything in this story to unfold as it did, but perhaps more importantly, he wouldn't have had the job he has today if it weren't for a conversation with a stranger about what would be required to be a certified teacher. I just love this story because it really stresses the importance of reaching out directly to people at the places you want to work and having conversations. Evan said it better than I could. You don't know which conversation will be the one that opens a door for you. Always say yes. Every conversation is one step closer to the last conversation.